Hello everyone, this is Rumi and this is our roller coaster project. Now first off we started with this graph. However, we realized after a little work that it was not working. We can never get the constant to equal 250 or 25 to make sure the roller coaster starts at the right height. We realized we needed to try a different approach. So 1 hour later, we came up with the genius idea of making sure that no matter how the equation is worked out, you will always be left with a constant of 25 or 250. So we set it up so it was x minus 5 times x plus 5 and so on to give us positive 25 as our constant. However, there was another flaw with this problem as we didn't get the correct number of maxima/minimas. An hour later, we came up with our final equation. Through a great deal of work, another hour of work, we managed to derive our final equation. We know that our constants must have a product whose final product is equal to positive 25. There must be 3 or more positive roots involved, and the equation must be to an odd degree. So we finally came up with these following roots: 2.5, 2, and 1. We set up these numbers so they'll give us positive 25. You can see negative 2.5 times positive 2.5 times negative 2 times positive 2 times 1 times 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 will give you a positive 25 when you finally multiply it all out together. Now the next step was to add the imaginary number so they wouldn't disturb the constant, and finally we added an x plus 1 to make sure that the power remained odd. So, after even more work, we finally derived the actual numerical final equation. So our final equation, such that an increment in x is by 2 minutes and an increment in y is by 10 feet, our final equation reads x to the 11th plus x to the 10th minus 11.25 x to the 9th minus 11.25 x to the 8th plus 34.25 x to the 7th plus 34.25 x to the 6th minus 13.75 x to the 5th minus 13.75 x to the 4th minus 35.25 x to the 3rd minus 35.25 x to the 2nd plus 25x plus 25.
Here's an accurate representation of our graph. The y-intercept is at 25, so the ride starts at 250. The ride ends at x equals 2.5, so the actual ride ends at 5 minutes. There are 3 maximas/minimas before the big drop. The real roots are 2.5, negative 2.5, 1, negative 1, 2, and negative 2. It should be noted that there are imaginary roots, I and negative I, but they can't be shown because they're imaginary. The root of negative 1 has a multiplicity of 3, and 1 has a multiplicity of 2.
Here, we can see an obvious tunnel that remains obvious. In fact, it drops down to about 5,000 feet, so I guess that's fun.
The end behavior of the graph is as follows. As x tends to infinity, y tends to infinity. As x tends to negative infinity, y tends to negative infinity. This function has an odd degree. The practical domain is x equals 0 to x equals 2.5. The practical range is y equals negative 495.350697 to y equals 142.1601. Here, blue represents increasing intervals and red represents decreasing intervals, and no color represents a constant interval. These are the intervals. There are a lot of them, so just read them using your eyes. Yes, do that. Just to recap, these are the equation and the equation's factored form. The roots are 2.5, negative 2.5, 2, negative 2, 1, negative 1, I, and negative I.
We tested these roots using synthetic division. Here you can see hours and hours of work shown within the span of 8 seconds.
We've decided to call this ride the Underground Thrill because of the drop.